Welcome to Blueprint for Life, the podcast designed to encourage, uplift, and challenge you on your journey. In just a moment, we will be joined by our host, Elder Lawrence McCarter Jr. We are thrilled you are willing to join us on this transformational ride. At Blueprint for Life, we believe each of us has a unique blueprint crafted by God Himself. This podcast will explore how to discover and unlock that blueprint, allowing you to live a life of purpose, fulfillment, and joy. Through insightful conversations, thought-provoking interviews, and biblical truths, we will delve into the keys that can unlock your potential. Together, we will navigate the challenges, setbacks, and triumphs that come our way, always relying on the timeless wisdom found in God's Word.
Hello, everybody. How are you doing? I hope everyone is doing well. This is another episode of Blueprint for Life. I am your host, Lawrence McCarter, and it is another opportunity that I do not take for granted to hang out with you, to talk to you, to share my insights of the things that God has blessed me with. I am a firm believer that God has a unique plan for each and every one of us, and that He has established these plans before we got to this earth, long before we got here. Each one of us, some of us have only been here for a few years, some of us have been here for quite a while, but before we got here, God had plans for each one of us, and He established those plans with a desire that none of us would have to live a terrible existence, that each one of us would live blessed existences. And in spite of everything that we have been through, in spite of everything that we have faced, that it is still God's plan that we would do well, that we would be blessed, that we would be favored by Him. And no one can convince me otherwise, because I've seen in my own life things that have come about, not only because of the decisions that I have made personally in my life, but things that have come about counter to the decisions that I've made, things that I have walked myself into because of my own decisions, and circumstances that came from those decisions that were impossible to see how I got out. You know, how it is that I managed not to have completely messed up my life in spite of all of the things that I did to try to mess it up. So I went out of my way to mess it up, and God simply said, no, I'm not done with you. I'm not going to let you do this. I'm going to save you in spite of yourself. So get out of the way, move, hush, let me fix it. And isn't that what a good father does, a good parent does? Even though we as children, we don't always know, we rarely know what's best for ourselves when we're small, when we're little. And yet, we'll try to do what we think we know is best, and we'll just push our way into a situation where, I got this, I know what I'm doing. And then your parents is just standing there, no, you really don't know what you're doing. Let me do it for you. And we will swear we know exactly what we're doing, like we've been here before. And we'll keep trying and trying and trying. And your parent is standing there, no, you really don't know what you're doing. And before it's all said and done, your parent has to step in and save you from yourself. And God does the same thing for us. He steps in, He saves us from ourselves, because we don't have a clue what it is that we're doing. We walking through this world blind leading the blind, and we still have yet to figure it out. And God is simply saying, look, I got this. I already had a plan for you. I already walked out the steps of your life. All you had to do was step in them, and you'd had the greatest life ever. But instead, you want to do things on your own. Well, look, I got it. I'll take care of it. I'll fix it. And it's been awesome to see how God has done that in my own life. And I want others to know about this. I want others to share in this walk, and to understand that God has a unique plan, not just a plan, not just this cookie cutter plan or this plan that everybody has to fit into all together. But no, he has a unique plan for each individual mapped out that is special and unique to each individual. And all we have to do is get to know him so that we know how we fit into that special plan that's built and designed just for our uniqueness, and let him take it from there. All right. First of all, let me apologize if I sound a little funny. I've been battling this cold for like a week or two now, and it seems to be trying to get the best of me, but I've been battling it off and fighting with it. And right now, it's just congestion and coughing that I seem to be battling with. So if you hear me cough or anything like that, that's what it is. And that's where I'm at. And it stinks because moving through spring and towards summer, and it's like the worst time to have a cold because it's warming up and you can't really cool off like you want to. So you're stuck in that weird place where you can't cool off, and being warm makes you want to cough and all that good stuff. But I'll be all right. I am all right because it's something I've gotten used to. You live long enough, you just get used to the way the seasons turn and the things that come along with it. But glory to God, I'm still here. But episode 13, it's a great little space to switch gears. One of the things that I enjoy doing more than anything is teaching. And this is an occasion to switch gears a little bit. And as I was preparing for this, I ran across an old quote by Sun Tzu where he said, "If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. If neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle." Now, I'm not saying that, especially in the Christian context, that every other, and when I say other, I'm talking about anybody who's other than a Christian, is to be considered an enemy. That is absolutely not what I'm getting at. As a matter of fact, I would consider every other person a friend or a co-worker or a potential brother or sister, a family member or whatever. I would consider every other person just that, another person. I don't condone or go along with the idea that anybody who isn't a Christian shouldn't be dealt with. I don't condone that school of thought. I don't go along with that school of thought. I think it's important that Christians have non-Christian friends and people in their lives for a couple of different reasons. One, who do you reach out to? How do you reach out to people if all of your circle is Christian? Who do you reach out to? Who's the people that you're reaching out to encourage to receive salvation? If everybody Christian. Also beyond that, if everybody thinks like you, who's challenging your school of thought and encouraging you to grow? We can sometimes get a little stagnant sometimes, especially as Christians. We get a little stagnant in the way that we think and assume that we know it all, and we can become a bit condescending toward people who don't think the way that we do or don't see the world the way that we do. And as a result, that we become a little off-putting toward people who don't see the world the way that we do. So I think it is important sometimes to have people in our lives who don't see the world the way that we do, because those occasions will keep you humble. Those occasions will help to keep us from becoming the thing that honestly we should dislike the most. We become like those Pharisees and Sadducees that gave Christ such a headache, I imagine, during the time that he walked on the earth, always trying to nitpick about the issues of the law rather than seeing people as people. And I think it's important that we never get bound by those kind of social conventions and continue to remember that Christ didn't come for the book, he came for the soul. So we have to remember that God loves people, man. He loves people. He loves the soul that's within the person. He didn't come here to save the book. He didn't come here to save the rule of law. He sent his son so that mankind could be redeemed back to himself. All right? What am I getting at with all this rambling? What am I getting at? I'm getting at, I think it's important for us to know ourselves and know those around us. Now, pose this question. What is religion? What is religion? And if you had to define religion, how would you define it? The reason I ask this is because if you go back throughout time, one of the constants that you will find across history is the fact that religion has existed from essentially the beginning. In some form or fashion, man has tried to answer the major questions of his existence with religion or some form of religion. When you pose this question of what is religion, it's a lot deeper than just asking the question itself. You really have to dig a little bit deeper than just asking that question. And the reason I say that is this. If I was just going to ask the question of what is religion nowadays, there's a lot that a lot of people could go into saying about religion. Because think about it. There's a lot of different quote unquote religions that exist nowadays. You have a lot of different people who worship in a lot of different ways or don't worship in a lot of different ways. And that question can become somewhat confusing based on a person's perception of what religion is. Now, that may seem somewhat confusing. And honestly, I would venture to say that yes, it is confusing, because asking the question of what is religion is a philosophical question. And it's a question that, again, philosophers have tried to define and establish for hundreds of years, maybe even thousands. And truthfully, no one has ever really come up with a solid answer. But we've had some strong efforts that have been made. We've had some very strong efforts. There was a theologian by the name of Paul Tillich who actually said that that particular question is that which is of ultimate concern. referring to the question of what is religion. But it doesn't really give a solid definition of what that particular question is or should be. And then there was another guy, an anthropologist by the name of Michael Allen Park, and he defined it as a set of beliefs and behaviors pertaining to the supernatural. Now, that can apply in a lot of ways, but it insists on the inclusion of the supernatural. But you have various religions that don't necessarily include the supernatural aspect. What do you do with them? What do you do with something like secular humanism that doesn't necessarily include the supernatural? And then there was a man by the name of Edward Norbick who said that religion is a distinctive symbolic expression of human life that interprets man himself and his universe, providing motives for human action. Okay. Essentially what he's saying is that it helps us understand who we are and why we do what we do. Okay. I can get behind that because everybody wants to understand who we are and why we do what we do. But there's got to be something more behind it all, right? There's got to be something deeper when it comes down to religion. There's got to be something, some defining quality that kind of answers a fair amount of the questions that we have for this concept of religion. Now, one of the ones that I guess one of the definitions that always stuck with me, and this is from my seminary days, and this actually came out of a book that came with me from my seminary days, I should say. And for those of you who would want to reference it, the name of the book is Understanding World Religions in 15 Minutes a Day. It's by a man named Gary Morgan, Gary Morgan. And like I said, I had this book since my seminary days, 10 plus years ago. But his definition was, religion is an organized system of beliefs that answers ultimate questions and commends certain actions or behaviors based on the answers to those questions. And that always stuck with me because it always allowed me to understand religion as, okay, this is the reason why I do the things that I do. And this is the reason why I function the way that I function. Because, see, one thing that we have to remember is that religion informs more than just my actions. In many cases, religion informs your political understanding. It informs your economic proclivities. It informs how you do or why you do, or the people that you interact with. It informs a great deal of your behaviors, your attitudes, your actions to and around others. It informs almost every aspect of our society. So now, thinking back to the quote by Sun Tzu, if you know your enemy and yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. Now, I'm not saying that everybody who's other than yourself is an enemy, but if you consider the times that we're living in and how it seems that nobody can get along and everybody is having such a hard time coexisting with one another, I would venture to say that a good chunk of the reason is because nobody understands anybody. We're not even taking the time to understand anybody. And part of that comes down to the very basis of our society, our religious beliefs. We've lost that connection that underpinned our society. And whether or not an individual is religious or anti-religious, whether or not an individual has a religious connection or is not religious at all, whether they ascribe to a particular religion or a denomination within a particular religion, these are things that will identify them within a particular society. And in many cases, this can help an individual to understand and be understood within society as a whole. So I would encourage each one of us to learn more about not only ourselves but others, so that we can know thyself. Now, sifting through these definitions, it does help to steer us towards some helpful principles. First, one religion component is an organized system of beliefs. Okay? In some cases, the organization, it may not be obvious to outsiders, but no religion is made up of random, unrelated creeds. Okay? So there is no such thing as a religion, an established religion, that just has random tossed together creeds that it's built on. Second, not all religions involve worship. You have to remember that. But they do all mandate or at least commend certain behaviors and actions, corporate, individual, or both, that are related to the belief system. And so that's something that's very important to remember. You may not have a religion that has an established form of worship. If I'm not mistaken, and only because I believe I know someone who practices as a Wiccan or witchcraft, they do not have what you would consider a established form of worship service. And yet they do practice both corporate and individual behaviors and actions. And third, religion answers questions about the unknown. Now, the first of those ultimate questions is, what is ultimate reality? Okay, so now for theists like Christians or Jews or Islam, the answer to that is God. Buddhists would happen to say that nothing, or the void, or nirvana. And then secular humanists would say that the material universe, which beyond that, nothing else exists. The next question that it answers is, what is the nature of the universe? Theists, like Christians, maintain that God created it. Secular humanists believe that the universe, or the material components that comprise it, is eternal and has no beginning or creator. Hindus say that the material universe is an illusion. We just think it exists. We think it's real. But it's not really there. And that all reality is spiritual in nature. A few other questions that are posed and answered by religion is, what does it mean to be human? And what is humanity's primary problem? and what happens after death. Now, from one religion to another, the answers will vary just as much as their outward practices. And for anyone who would say that one religion is just as good as or the same as another, I would venture to say that's only because you've not looked into any particular religion. But I would encourage you to just take a few weeks. Go along on this journey with me. Let's look at what it really means for these various religions to exist, so that you can both know thyself and know others. Get a better understanding. I'm not going to push for anybody to make a final decision that they don't want to make, but I will ask you to make an informed decision, but that's up to you. You can make your own decision. You make up your own mind. But my encouragement is this: know what you're dealing with. Know for yourself. Make an informed decision. Don't just take someone else's word for it. Don't just listen to the talking heads around you. And don't just assume that just because someone else said, nah. Make up your own mind. Decide for yourself. Because eternity is way too long to make a decision lightly or because somebody else said. Guys, it's been great hanging out with you. I look forward to the next time. As always, God bless. I'll keep you in my prayers.
Hey there, fellow listeners. As we wind down another inspiring episode of Blueprint for Life, we want to thank you for tuning in. Remember, you can always find more uplifting content and past episodes on our website, blueprintforlifepodcast.com, or you can find us on Amazon Music, Audible, or Spotify. Join us next time for more faith-filled conversations and stories that fuel your spirit. Until then, stay blessed and keep shining your light.